Okay, I realize you're still working on the handout, but go ahead to your regular notes. Keep the handout packet handy, so to speak. Let's get right to it. Test will be tomorrow. What was unique about Washington's farewell address? How did he deliver his farewell address? Anybody remember that? Go ahead.
He didn't orally speak it, he just put it in the newspaper.
Yes. What are Washington's 3 warnings when he left office? Give me one. Gracie.
Political party.
And what about them?
He wanted it to divide people.
Okay, yeah, so in other words, don't do it, right? Okay. Amy? Yeah, let me be clear on that. He didn't say you can't get involved in foreign affairs, but he said don't get over involved in foreign affairs or temporary involvement. Okay? But not permanent involvement. All right? And his third warning. Good. Yes, do not divide the country. So it's 3 warnings, and there you can see them. And you really could put a no. And again, entangling alliances was what he was worried about. Not necessarily you can't get involved in foreign affairs. He wasn't simplistic there. He knew that the United States is becoming a world power, even though many historians would argue we were not yet. Okay, so again, no political parties, no entangling alliances, and no sectionalism. And one more time, what does sectionalism mean? Go ahead.
Breaking the country up into different parts based off belief.
Yes, you got it. Okay. And again, he did deliver the farewell address, or did not deliver it, but it was published in the newspaper. Where is it read? Every year for the last 100 years plus. Go ahead. Congress. And again, one of you asked. I guess we're not paying attention, are we? Okay. Let's take a look at this. We answered that. The letter was first published, but down here, 1796, we have John Adams being elected. John Adams is in for it. Bryson, that would be like trying to follow you. Impossible. How could you possibly do that? See what I mean? Everybody agrees. Washington, although he is considered one of the greatest presidents ever, obviously that's arguable, kind of smirked when he looked at Adams like, well, it's all yours now. Have fun. Washington did not enjoy the role of president. He did it well. Nobody can argue that. Okay, so the first president, I mentioned this real quick at the end of the period on Friday. He died just 2 years after serving. He was a slave owner, and his slaves were freed after he died. And again, I just mentioned there the old vault, nothing you have to write down. He was first buried here, then he was buried here. And as most of you caught on, no, that's not a trapdoor to the afterworld. Although, do you not have any idea how many people go down there and they actually like touch the bricks and say they're talking to Washington and things like that? A lot, yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay, so slavery at Mount Vernon. Let's take a look at his will, the phrase, sentence from the will. Aiden, please.
Slavery at Mount Vernon. It is my will and desire that all the slaves which I hold in my own right shall receive their freedom.
And they were freed. At any given time, there were about 50 slaves at Mount Vernon. At any given time. Over 300 total throughout the estate. Okay, throughout the history of the estate. Okay. And there you can read for yourself a little bit, some of the occupations, etc. He was a planner. Okay, and there you can see a monument to the slaves. Okay, let's take a look at this. So what ends up happening to our first president? Maggie, if you would please. Quimsy.
Washington died on the evening of December 14th, 1799, at his home, age 67, while attended by Dr. James One
Hmm?
of his closest friends and advisors, William Washington. Here would record the account of Washington's last words.
Tiswell, his last words. Tiswell. Okay, so what precedents did Washington set as president of the United States? What precedents? Amy? Cabinet, yes. What else?
2 terms.
2 terms, yes. And again, that's not in the Constitution yet. That doesn't change till 1950. What else? Or something else? He adds to the oath of office. Well, tell me what. Kaylee. So help me God. He adds to the oath of office, yes. Okay. He also coined the term president. Look at the third one there. Call me president. The word president is not in the Constitution. And they were debating, what should we call this person? Chief executive? What do? He said, well, call me president, meaning presiding officer. So he's the presider over the executive. What does it mean? Not much. But it was catchy. Kind of really interesting when you think about Congress wanted to actually make him king. He said, president works for me. I don't know if that's exactly how he said it, Georgia, but that's what happened. Okay. All right, moving right along here. Sarah, please.
Washington's legacy. Following his death, British Royal Navy lowered its flags at half-mast, and the American Army wore black armbands for 6 months, including over 10 days of mourning throughout.
Okay, and there you can see now the picture in the top left, Washington on the horse, that's actually over in France. That's a monument to Washington over in France. Obviously, the Washington Monument, Mount Rushmore on the right, the quarter, and the dollar bill. It is illegal to photograph a dollar bill. Don't get me locked up. Moving on. 1796, presidential election. I had this on page 6. I don't know if you got that far. What 2 parties ran for president? Do we know? Good. Good. Go ahead. Yep, John Adams and Jefferson. Jefferson will obviously lose in a very close electoral college vote. And as you can see there, let's take a look at this. Adams, the first president to win an election involving political parties. John Adams, the only president sworn into office in Philadelphia. I would like you to be aware of that. John Adams was the only president sworn into office in Philadelphia. He did not serve his entire term in Philadelphia. The capital will be moved to Washington, D.C. while he was president. Okay? But he's the only president sworn into office in Philadelphia. Jefferson was vice president. The Constitution gave the vice president candidate with the second largest number of votes. Okay, so the way it worked then was whoever got the most votes was president. Whoever got the second largest amount of votes was vice president. Okay, now the 12th Amendment, I would like you to know that. Change this to the way we have it today, where we actually have candidates for president and vice president on both parties. But that didn't change till later on. So the way it was, you actually had Adams. What party's Adams?
Federalist.
He's a Federalist. What party's Jefferson?
The Democrat, Republican.
Democratic, Republican, or Republican? My question for you, is that a better system? Careful. You might want to think that through.
Because they'll never get it.
It could be.
I kind of wonder, do we get anything done now? Or is it a good thing? What do you think? Why might it be a good thing? Caleb?
Because if there were 2 opposing parties, it would kind of equal each other out, so that way it doesn't go all one way.
There's that checks and balances thing again. Why might it be a horrible thing, Bryson? Aiden?
Because they'll constantly be arguing and
We'd have a log jam,
Yeah.
gridlock. So
it's
we look at it both ways, right? Okay, so John Adams is president, 1 term, and yes, he serves from Philadelphia. Moving right along. What conflict was Washington determined to keep us out of? What conflict's going on in the world? Don't say World War II. Good. The French Revolution and mostly the conflict between Britain and France. Okay? Napoleon's not in power yet, but that whole squabble. And I want you to know that the conflict between Britain and France. He says, let's stay out of it. What policy is Washington's foreign? What word sums up his foreign policy?
No.
Okay, I agree. I was thinking neutral, but all right, neutrality. Stay out. Okay. Now the question is, what problems did the United States face in its attempt to stay neutral in the conflict? Well, which side supported France? Which party? Republicans. Which side supports Britain?
Federalist.
What treaty supports Britain? Jay's Treaty. So we got issues here, lots of issues. We're supposed to be protecting French colonies in the Caribbean. We got a mess. And here's the agent ambassador Guinness saga. Saga is another word for story. It's a fancy word, but I thought it sounded more impressive. Saga. Jesse, will you read, please?
Agent Ambassador Janet Saga. It was bad enough that the French Revolution devolved into a chaotic bloodbath. Worse yet was the fact that France went to war with England and then appealed to the United States for assistance through the office of Ambassador Janet. President Washington wisely decided on a course of strict neutrality and went so far as to dispatch John Jay to London to procure a treaty of non-aggression with the British Crown. It was the best thing we could have done, as France turned out to be a historical basket case.
The quasi-war and the XYZ affair. Quasi-war means sort of maybe war. It means that we're not declaring war. Now, Adams is in the presidency by now. And Adams' problem is trying to stay out of this quasi-war. Quasi-war means a sort of war. The French warships are seizing our merchant ships and passenger ships. Adams wants peaceful negotiation, but France demanded we pay to meet with them. I do want you to know that. France says if you want to meet with us, you have to pay the money. How do you think the United States population felt about having to pay to meet with the French government? What do you think? Amy?
I don't think they liked it very much.
We did not like it. In fact, many were offended. In fact, many people said, let's just go to war against France and get it over with. The push was to go to war against France. Adams says, let's talk about this before we get into another war. Remember, Adams is the same as Washington. Adams wants to be neutral. Okay? Adams wants to stay out of the war. I would like you to be aware of that term, war hawks. The congressional war hawks and Alexander Hamilton wanted to go to war. Our Army and Navy were not ready for war. What country helped us defeat France? I'm sorry, what country helped us defeat Britain in the Revolution? France. Well, France is not going to help us defeat France. Catching on? So Adams says, let's stay out of this. Now, I'm going to tell you this, and I want you to think about this. Adams is considered one of the worst presidents. Unfortunately, his son is considered one of the worst presidents. He's worser. Don't tell Mr. Fight I said that. Now, having said all that, Look at my last line up there. And yes, that is my opinion. Historians have restudied Adams and give him a lot of credit for keeping us out of the war. I will tell you this, I think very much the United States would have lost this war. Our fragile new Constitution, our fragile new republic, probably would have gone right through the basement floor, which is not a good place to be. So I'm giving Adams a lot of recognition here. And I think he does deserve a lot of credit. He kept us out of the war. Now, having said all that, Adams gets involved in something that is extremely controversial. And this is really the one major keystone of his presidency. And this was called the Alien and Sedition Acts. The Alien and Sedition Acts. The Alien Acts. President Adams warned that foreign influence in the United States was dangerous and must be exterminated. The Federalist majority in Congress quickly passed 4 laws in 1798 to make the United States more secure from alien spies and domestic traitors. This is called the Alien Act. Go to page 6 of your handout, please. I realize you didn't get this far, probably the majority of you, but let's take a look at this. Go down underneath 218. Let's go to summary, okay? Summary. Go ahead and go.
John Adams becomes president. John Adams, Washington's vice president. B. Thomas Jefferson becomes the second president in 1797. Hamilton became the leader of the Federalist Party, known as the High Federalists.
Keep going.
What did France demand the United States pay before they negotiated their differences with us?
Well,
Money.
money. What was this event called? Do you remember? Letters. XYZ affair. Okay, so let's go to this. That unofficial fighting, that's this quasi-war. Let's take a look here. Okay, unofficial fighting. Go, Evelyn.
France was upset with Jay's Treaty and it started capturing American merchant ships. President John Adams sent John Marshall to France to negotiate in 1797. Hoping to meet Talleyrand, the French foreign minister, Adams' envoy was secretly approached by 3 go-betweens, later referred to as X, Y, and Z.
You want to try those French pronunciations? You know what I say? They called it X, Y, and Z because no one wanted to try to pronounce the French names.
Daviet, Jean Conrad.
We get the idea. Keep going over to page 7.
The French spokesman demanded a bribe of $250,000.
Underline that, circle that. $250,000. And understand the United States is offended by this. Go ahead.
Just to talk to Talleyrand. Anchored by the intolerable terms, Marshall and Enver returned to the U.S. infuriated with the XYZ affair. America began preparations for war. The Navy Department was created, the 3-ship Navy was expanded, the United States Marine Corps was reestablished.
So I do want you to know some things there Adams did do. He did establish the Navy Department, and he did reestablish the Marine Corps. Sometimes that gets lost in Adams as being one of the worst presidents. In fact, your textbook gives 6 paragraphs to John Adams' presidency. 6. Not 6 pages. 6 paragraphs. The big thing is the Alien and Sedition Acts, and again, I think keeping us out of the war. Now, the Convention of 1800, I'll make that real simple. That was when we said we would protect French colonies in the Caribbean. All right, summary, moving right along here. Let's take a look. Summary. Adams puts patriotism above party. His own party wants to go to war. You can turn the other light on there. Jesse, go, please.
Because France did not want another enemy, so that if America sent another negotiator minister, then he would be received with proper respect. Napoleon Bonaparte was the dictator of France. Eager to free his hands of a potential enemy, Napoleon Bonaparte signed the Convention of 1800, which with American representatives John Jay, and annulled the alliance between France and America that had existed since the Revolutionary War. convention also called for France to return captured American ships and for the U.S. to pay the damage claims of the American shippers. Damages were caused by France.
Okay, so we got to go over this next part there. What is an alien? Someone in the country illegally is what it's referred to. And what did the first two laws state? What did the next two laws state? I'm going to make it real simple for you. Take a look at the screen here. And I'm not worried about breaking down the laws in order. I want you to know this was aimed at stopping immigrants from having political support for the Republican Party. This required immigrants to wait 14 years, and make sure you get that. You had to wait 14 years to become citizens. And the next part, the president had the power to deport without trial anyone deemed dangerous to the United States. So 14 years, and you can be deported if you are deemed dangerous. Why did the Federalists want this? Well, because most aliens coming were Republicans. And I want you to know this is extremely controversial. Okay? It was extremely controversial. Now, I'm going to go over the next one then. And again, I'm a little running this all together. The fourth act was aimed, in that blank there, is sedition. Sedition means when you're basically, sedition means talking against the government, okay? Talking against the government. And as you can see there, it's a crime to print or utter false, scandalous, and malicious things about the government. In other words, you don't criticize the government. Do you see why these are controversial? Goes against the First Amendment, but how does Adams get away with it? Well, aliens weren't considered citizens. So the argument was aliens were not protected by the First Amendment, which kind of goes out the window if you look at it, because technically speaking, anyone in the country is protected by the Constitution. Okay? Actually, you could argue it took away the people's rights to criticize public officials. Now, this whole time, the Republicans are screaming, this is just what's called a witch hunt. And I do want you to know what that means. A witch hunt goes back to Salem, Massachusetts. Look at that next part. Summary, the Federalist witch hunt. Okay? Evelyn, please.
To decrease the number of pro-Jeffersonians, the Federalist Congress passed a series of oppressive laws aimed at aliens, the foreigners who came to America and supported Jefferson. These alien laws raised the residence requirements for aliens who desired to become citizens from 5 years to 14 years. They also stated that the president could deport or jail foreigners in times of peace or hostilities. The Sedition Act stated that anyone who impeded the policies of the government or possibly defamed its officials would be liable to a heavy fine and imprisonment.
In 1798, Republican-controlled legislators passed resolutions criticizing the, what do you think goes in the blanks? Alien and Sedition Acts. You really do want to know this because this Sedition Act comes up during World War I, where it was actually illegal to question the government. In fact, one of the reasons, I'll throw this out there, one of the reasons for prohibition, getting rid of alcohol, was during World War I, we were fighting against Germany, and Germany was famous for beer. That's one of the reasons why we had prohibition in this country. Obviously, that's another story for another day, but something to think about, okay? Now, meanwhile, why do you think John Adams is criticized for the Alien and Sedition Acts, which I'll tell you straight up is going to be your short answer question. So please read over Alien and Sedition Acts, okay? You want to know this. Go ahead.
People thought they were unconstitutional.
Definitely unconstitutional. And I also want you to know the Republicans feel this just isn't fair. It's just not fair. Okay, Republican Party has a problem with it. And who is the lead Republican at the time? Go ahead.
Jefferson.
Thomas Jefferson. Remember that compact and contract theory? Does anybody remember that? What's the compact theory? What's the contract theory? See what we can come up with. It has to do with implied and enumerated powers. Google if you have to. Okay, let's see if we can do it. Compact and contract. One says the federal government created the states, so the federal government is in charge. The other one says the states created the federal government, so the states are in charge. So which one's which? Compact, contract, theory of government. Chat with your partner if you want to. So which one gives the states the power? Go ahead. Compact, states, contract. Oh, I had your throat. Federal government. Now, it's very important to understand that the states say they have the power, because we're going to come up with what's that big era in history where we see the states really acting up and taking power into their own hands. Happens much later in history, 1860s to be exact. It's called the Civil War, and the states feel they can secede. Now, let me be clear on this. Republicans cry out foul over this. Kentucky resolution is Jefferson. He can't write the Virginia resolution because that one was taken by Madison. Now I know what you're thinking. Why would he call it the Kentucky resolution? Nobody knows because he's from Virginia. But I guess because he felt, well, let Madison write this. The catch here is this. And this is very important. That's why I have about 6 asterisks here. Well, 4 to be exact. Know this. The Kentucky and the Virginia resolutions claim that the states have the right to nullify federal laws if they are unconstitutional. So what I want you to know for that, that compact theory, the states feel they have the power. And underline that word nullify. The states had the right to nullify federal law. The southern states are going to use this in the Civil War when they secede from the Union. So it's very important that we know this compact theory. Okay? Extremely important, critically important. It gives the states the power. So, John Adams' presidency, marred by the XYZ affair and the Alien and Sedition Acts. And although that was very quick, that's what you want to know for John Adams. Let's go to page 7 there of your handout. The Virginia and Kentucky resolutions at the bottom. Go, Georgia.
The Virginia, Madison, Jefferson resolutions. Kentucky and Virginia passed resolutions that stated that the states had the right to refuse laws created by the government. Virtually no other state followed the 2 states' resolutions. Virginia and Kentucky resolutions. The 1798 and 1799 in U.S. history, measures passed by the legislatures of Virginia and Kentucky as a protest against the Federalist, Alien, and Sedition Acts. The resolutions were written by James Madison and Thomas Jefferson, then Vice President in the administration of John Adams, but the role of those statesmen remained unknown to the public for almost 25 years. Generally, the resolutions argued that because the federal government was the outcome of the pact between the states, all powers not specifically granted to the central authority were retained by the individual states or by the people. For this reason, they maintained that the states had the power to pass upon the constitutionality of federal legislation. The Virginia and Kentucky resolutions were primarily protests against limitations of civil liberties contained in the Alien and Sedition Acts, rather than expressions of full-blown constitutional theory. Later references to the resolution as authority for the theories of nullification and secession are inconsistent with the limited goals sought by Jefferson and not sent to the Black Panther.
Okay, so although Adams was criticized for not doing a whole lot as president, and he was criticized for the Alien and Sedition Acts, there's no question. What were some outcomes of his presidency? Gracie, give me some. He did create the Navy, the Marines. Go ahead.
Kept us out of war.
Kept us out of war. Yes. Okay. And you can see that up there. He also, I'm not too worried about number 3 because that was more a technicality. But he got France to release us from the treaty that said we had to protect their colonies. Okay, the next couple pages in the handout we're going to skip. Go to page 14. I showed you this on Friday, real quick like. 14 and 15 you can try as practice, and I can go over the answers tomorrow before we take the test. Just flip to 14, 15. Okay, keep flipping. The next pages there are all text. Really take a minute, take a couple minutes, read over them. Okay, keep flipping. I think I have those numbered. Where does it end? 19, I believe. Keep going there, Aiden.
Yeah.
Keep going. And then the next page is what? 21. Go to 21, 22. That was this page that I started going over with you on Friday. I did put this on Canvas for today and on Friday that has these corrections on it. I can even pass this around. Okay, so what we'll do is a test tomorrow. Please, I went over the Alien and Sedition Acts quickly. Please read over them. Even if you just Google it, that's fine. Make sure you look over 21, 22 of the review. Last thing for today, there's a video. Go into Canvas real quick. Okay, and let me just show you a couple of things there. Take a look. Study for the test. You can watch these 2 videos here. I don't know why it copied them several times, but here. 2 videos. You can watch this political crash course. Right here's another good video of Jefferson versus Adams, and definitely get to the Quizlet, okay? And that will all help you prepare. All right, last thing for today. Click on that link for XYZ Affair. You only have a minute. Any Wham fans from the 80s? Oh, you're going to love this video. Go ahead, give it a shot. Click on XYZ. Test tomorrow. Any questions? Jesse, you got a question I can answer, or you good? Told you you're going to love it. Here, Jesse, I put it up on the screen. Mostly the Navy and kept us out of the war. That's the big deal. Questions, email me. Come in tomorrow morning. I'll answer anything you got. I know that was quick, but we got to get this test in, okay?
Oh, Mr. Henning,
Class officer, stick around, please.
I saw your dad yesterday.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, we were pumping tankers with him at the fire in Halifax.
Oh, yeah. That was a goer, wasn't it?
A little. We couldn't
Bet.
see, we couldn't see much because it was kind of down the lane a little.
I forgot to give this to you.
Oh, my God. Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Snowman, I love it.
Why? Please, Daddy.